There is a very specific moment when people stop respecting you. Most people never notice when it happens. They believe respect disappears slowly over time, or because of something dramatic like failure, weakness, or public embarrassment. But in reality, the loss of respect usually happens in much smaller moments, quiet moments, moments that look completely normal on the surface. A conversation where someone interrupts you and you immediately stop talking. A situation where someone makes a dismissive comment and you laugh it off to avoid tension. A moment where someone questions your decision and you begin explaining yourself again and again just to make them understand. None of these actions feel serious at the time. They seem harmless, polite even. But to the people around you, these moments communicate something very important. Your frame moves under pressure. Every social interaction contains invisible tests. People rarely say them directly. Instead, they appear through behavior, a challenge, a sarcastic remark, a slight dismissal of your opinion. These are not always meant to be hostile. Often they are simply unconscious ways people measure how stable someone is. They are asking a silent question. How easily can this person be moved? And the moment your behavior shifts to avoid tension, the answer becomes clear. When you rush to explain yourself, it signals uncertainty. When you laugh at disrespect to keep the atmosphere comfortable, it signals flexibility. When you allow someone to interrupt you and you give up the floor immediately, it signals hesitation. Each of these signals lowers your perceived position in the interaction. Respect rarely disappears because someone attacks it directly. It disappears because your reactions slowly teach people that pressure works on you. The moment people realize their behavior can influence your emotional state, something changes in the dynamic. They begin speaking over you more often. They challenge your opinions more confidently. They push your boundaries slightly further each time. Not because they consciously decided to disrespect you, but because the interaction taught them that influence is possible. But there is another type of man who never reaches this point. Not because he demands respect loudly or tries to dominate every conversation. In fact, he often speaks less than others. The difference is much simpler. When pressure appears, his behavior does not change. When someone interrupts him, he calmly continues speaking. When someone challenges his opinion, he states it once and lets the silence hold the space. When tension appears, he does not rush to dissolve it. And because his frame remains stable, people quickly understand something important. Pressure will not move him. And when pressure stops working, the silent tests stop appearing. The moment people stop respecting you often begins with something very subtle. The moment you start prioritizing comfort over stability. Most people believe respect comes from being liked. They try to maintain harmony in every interaction. They avoid tension, soften their opinions, and adjust their tone to make sure no one feels uncomfortable. On the surface, this looks polite and cooperative, but psychologically, it sends a very different signal. It tells people that maintaining approval is more important to you than maintaining your position. And once that signal appears, the balance inside the interaction begins to shift. Imagine a situation where someone challenges your opinion during a discussion. If your first reaction is to immediately defend yourself with long explanations, people sense that pressure affects you. They see that disagreement pushes you into justification. The conversation slowly stops being about ideas and starts becoming about influence. Whoever can create more pressure begins to lead the direction of the interaction. This is why many people feel like their words carry less weight over time. It is not because their ideas are weak. It is because their reactions reveal that emotional pressure changes their behavior. But the man who keeps respect does something very different. When someone challenges him, he does not rush to prove himself. He simply repeats his position calmly or clarifies it once. Then he stops speaking and allows the silence to remain. This creates something most people are not used to: space. In that space, the other person must decide how far they are willing to push without receiving emotional leverage in return. When someone does not react defensively, the person applying pressure often begins to feel their own behavior more clearly. This is why stability is so powerful. Stability forces others to adjust their behavior first. When someone realizes that raising their voice, interrupting, or challenging you emotionally produces no visible shift in your posture or tone, their strategy becomes ineffective, and people rarely continue using strategies that stop working. The loss of respect rarely begins with a big event. It begins the moment your behavior shows that pressure changes you, and the moment respect begins to fade is the moment people realize they can move your frame. Another moment when people begin losing respect for someone is when their reactions become predictable. Predictability creates leverage. If people know exactly how you will react when challenged, they know how to control the interaction. For example, if someone knows that a sarcastic comment will make you defensive, they can use sarcasm to push you into explaining yourself. If someone knows that raising their voice will make you back down, they will raise their voice again. Over time, this becomes a pattern. The person applying pressure does not even have to think about it anymore. They simply repeat the behavior that worked before. This is why emotional reactions are often the first signal that respect is fading. When someone reacts instantly to pressure, they reveal how easily their internal state can be influenced. Their tone changes, their posture shifts, their words become rushed. Even if the reaction is small, people notice it. Humans are extremely sensitive to emotional changes in others, and once someone recognizes that their behavior can trigger a reaction in you, the dynamic of the interaction quietly shifts. But the man who maintains respect behaves in a completely different way. When pressure appears, he slows down instead of speeding up. If someone interrupts him, he does not rush to defend his position. He simply continues speaking at the same pace. If someone challenges him emotionally, he does not escalate the situation or try to dominate the conversation. Instead, he responds calmly and deliberately. This creates something that weak reactions cannot: uncertainty. Uncertainty removes control. When someone cannot predict your reaction, they cannot easily manipulate the interaction. The usual tools, sarcasm, pressure, interruptions, lose their effectiveness because they no longer produce the expected results. The person applying pressure suddenly finds themselves without leverage. This is why many people instinctively respect those who remain calm under pressure. It is not because calm behavior is louder or more aggressive. It is because calm behavior removes emotional access. And when someone cannot access your emotions easily, they cannot influence your behavior easily either. Respect does not disappear the moment someone challenges you. It disappears the moment your reactions show that their pressure works. The exact moment people stop respecting you is not when someone openly disrespects you. It is the moment they realize something much quieter. Your emotional state depends on their behavior. Once people sense that their tone, pressure, or attitude can move you, the dynamic changes immediately. Respect is closely tied to emotional stability. When someone believes they can influence your reactions, they unconsciously begin testing that influence more often. At first, the tests are small. Someone interrupts you during a conversation. Someone dismisses your idea with a sarcastic comment. Someone challenges your decision with unnecessary intensity. These moments often look insignificant. Many people ignore them to keep the interaction comfortable. They laugh, explain themselves, or slightly adjust their position to reduce tension. But every time that happens, a subtle message is sent. Pressure works here. The moment people recognize that pressure works, the behavior becomes easier to repeat. They interrupt more often. They challenge you more openly. They question your authority more confidently. Not because they suddenly decided to disrespect you, but because the interaction taught them that your frame moves under pressure. The man who keeps respect understands something different. Respect is not maintained by dominating every conversation or proving strength aggressively. It is maintained by remaining stable when tension appears. When someone interrupts him, he calmly continues speaking. When someone challenges him emotionally, he does not rush to defend himself. When sarcasm appears, he does not react with nervous laughter. His behavior stays consistent, regardless of the pressure around him. This consistency changes the psychology of the interaction. When people realize their behavior does not create emotional leverage, they begin adjusting themselves instead. The interruptions disappear. The sarcastic comments fade. The unnecessary challenges become rare. Not because he demanded respect, but because his stability made disrespect ineffective. Respect is rarely lost in a single dramatic moment. It disappears the moment people realize they can influence your reactions, and it returns the moment they realize they cannot. That is the exact moment the dynamic changes.